All right, it is July 1st today. Can't believe it, June's gone already. I've got one of the interns, Hayden, with me. It's our first time hanging out, and we've got some work to do. I actually just got on a new permission piece. I shed hunted this piece earlier this spring, and then I was fortunate enough to get permission to turkey hunt it. So I've been out on the property a handful of times now. But to be honest, when I was shed hunting it, I didn't think there was any chance I was going to get access to deer hunt it. But lucky for me, the landowner is generous enough to let me go out there. So we're going to head out there today. There's a couple water holes that I want to put in. Look at a few spots for tree stands. Got a couple scrape trees I want to install. And really just kind of put boots on the ground. I've been all over the farm, but like I said, when I was walking, I was looking for antlers. I wasn't thinking I was ever going to get to deer hunt it. But there is one deer in particular. I picked a shed off, 1.5 old deer that could be a giant if he reaches 5 years old. So I really want to, learn this property so I'm ready for when a deer like that is in there. So it could be a big deer in there this fall, but I really have no intentions of hunting it this year unless there is something really big. So we're gonna go out there today, get a few things done, slap some cameras up, and start getting some inventory. Summer's gonna be gone before we know it, and we got some stuff to do. So we just got out here and did a little looking around before we want to get this first water tank buried, and we're pretty much at the highest point of the farm right now. Access is going to be the toughest thing about this place, no doubt about it. You got to kind of drive uphill to get in here, and you're at a huge disadvantage right there because any deer laying high is looking down on you. But we're pretty much what I'm going to call the mountaintop. We're in a spot where we can get in a tree back here over Hayden's shoulder and blow a south wind over this hill. And especially in the mornings on high pressure day where our thermals are rising, I think we can hunt this area and get away with pretty much any wind. I think we just have to get in here super early and beat the deer. But we got a spot picked out where we're kind of right on the edge of huge drop off behind us, kind of some thicker stuff to the west, and it kind of more open timber here to the east of us. But it's a really good, kind of like an intersection here up in these woods. This chunk of woods here is probably only 10 acres, maybe. But a lot of deer bedding here. We've jumped several already. I think we're gonna put the water hole right here. We can get the truck here, as you can see, which is gonna allow us to come in here and fill this thing up and fill it if it ever runs out. So we're gonna get to digging, get this water hole in, and we got at least one more water hole we wanna put, and we might end up, if we have time, hanging a set over both of these water holes today too. So let's get going. Water hole number 1 buried. We've got a maple tree picked out, probably 22 yards, just right up here on this top. Water hole's kind of placed right on the edge of this open timber. There's an old logging road that runs this way and another one that comes up the hill right here. So this is kind of a intersection. I think a lot of the bigger, more mature deer are gonna bed up on this high spot here. So we got this really tight to bedding for sure. This is gonna be a spot where you're gonna have to get in here early and probably stay all day, but I think it could be really good. I think the deer are gonna absolutely hammer this because the closest water to where we're standing right now is probably a good 500 to 600 yards in a couple different directions. So this is definitely gonna be the first stop, I would think, if they wanna get a drink before bed or when they get out of their bed. So we're gonna go check out another spot. I got one more tank I wanna bury, and then we'll probably run back, fill up the water tank, and come in here and get these topped off. I'm gonna probably put out a couple mineral sites too, if I can find some good areas to do it, but we're gonna keep moving. Well, we just got the spot. The landowner, when I first talked to him about this area here, he calls this buck bottom. And he said it's always just ripped to shit deer sign in the fall. This is actually where I picked the shed off of that mini giant, right around the corner here. But we got a spot. We kind of walked around, checked it out, looked at a few different trees, and I think we're gonna end up here. There's a cedar tree, and there's an old driveway that runs right through the middle of this piece, and we're only about 30, 40 yards off the driveway. But the reason we picked this cedar is it's kind of up on this higher spot. It's kind of a lower bottom down here, and looks really good, but I'm a little nervous about swirling winds down in there. So we came back out, looked at this cedar, and it's, like I said, it's higher up. We're gonna be able to see a ton of ground here, and we're gonna put a water hole. This is pretty much right at the mouth of two different valleys come out right here, and the deer, I'm assuming, are gonna wanna go to the east. That's where the egg fields are at. So I think it's gonna be a really good transition spot. There is a creek that runs right down through here. There's water in it right now, but I gotta believe on most years there's not always water in that creek. We've had a ton of rain here in Iowa this year, and that's why there's water in there right now. And it's not even a lot of water in there, which tells me that it could very easily dry up. So we're gonna put a water tank here. I think a lot of these deer will hit it on the way out from bedding or on their way back in. So that's the plan here. Definitely gonna be a good observation spot. Pretty much hunt it with anything north in it. And I think we'll learn a lot about this farm sitting in this tree here. So get her buried. Broke a sweat on that one. This one was we're out on this grassy hillside. So we took a weed whacker and knocked down the long grass before we started digging. And a lot of clay in the soil here. So it was real fun digging, but we got it in there, got it level for the most part. I think after a couple rainfalls, it'll settle in good. So we're gonna head back. We ran out of weed whacker string, and we gotta get water to fill these tanks up. So we're gonna head back home and grab some water, and we'll be back out to fill them. We just got a stand hung here by it'll be our second water hole that we put in. We still got to go fill the upper one. This first one went pretty well. We hung a stand about 20 yards right over here up in a cedar. It took us quite a while to trim it out. It was a pretty thick cedar tree with poison ivy. I'm sure I'm gonna be covered in poison ivy, but it's pricey pay. But while I was doing that, Hayden weed whacked a trail down through this bottom, probably about 40 yards, kind of hoping to get deer to start traveling to this water. That's kind of how we envision them coming in this way anyways, kind of out of this valley, down through this bottom or up over this top. And we should be able to blow our wind perfect right where we entered from. So pretty excited about it. Just threw a edge camera here on this other cedar tree, waiting for it to send me a test photo, make sure everything's good here, and we're gonna head up to the other water hole and get that one filled up. And we got a tree picked out to hang a stand up there too. We just got the second water hole filled up, and we hung a stand up here at a maple tree. Perfect spot, kind of up on this high spot here. Probably probably gonna sit this planning to play a south wind blowing off the back side of this, and maybe even blowing it back east where we're coming in from. But cool looking spot. We went ahead and put a scrape vine hanging right down the middle. There's a logging road that runs east and west, and another one that runs kind of down the hill here, and this is kind of an intersection. So we got the scrape vine and the water both in line with one of the Edge Pros over here. Just got that hooked up. Photos look good. Stand set, ready to go. Lifelines hooked up. Little side note, we jumped a pretty nice buck. He was laying about 30 yards from this water tank. We were in here this morning digging this thing in. Went out to get water, came back, and he was laying there with another deer. I didn't get a good look at that one, but the one was definitely a nice buck. So good to see they're bedding kind of right where we figured they would be. I know it's only summertime, but when I was in here shed hunting, the deer were using the hell out of this ridge top. So we are gonna go scout out a couple spots to dump some mineral on this farm, and maybe put in a couple scrape trees yet, and then we'll be out of here.
Down. Got me down. That one's done. I'm happy with them. Really excited to put a wrap on a quick North Dakota season for myself.
Holy smokes. That is a heck of a deer.
We just got a scrape tree put up. We're kind of up on a high knoll here, as you can see. Pretty good vantage. Good chunk of timber here to the west of us. CRP up here to the, well, I guess it'd be the northwest of us, and some more bedding up here straight behind Hayden right now. But landowner said that the people that own the property before they got it, they had this ladder stand right in the cedar tree back here. And I said, that look, when I was in here shed hunting, I told him, I said, that looks like a damn good spot. It was one of the, there's a ton of stands across this property, really old stuff. But that was one of them that stood out as a spot I definitely wanted to check out. We did put a new ratchet strap on that ladder, and it's completely good to go now. Cleared out a spot where I can put a cameraman stand up there. And we went ahead and put a 4x8 post in the ground here with a scrape branch off of a flagpole holder. So opened her up, had Hayden piss in it. Now we just let her go to work. But we got a spot back down here at the base of this valley here. I wanted to go put a mineral because I feel like a lot of deer are gonna be coming out of that valley traveling naturally. So I want to put a mineral down in there, throw a cell cam on it, and see what shows up. But we're gonna head down in there now. We've been kind of on the, I'd say, the north and the west side of the property most of the day. But we just came over to check out a spot here on the east side. We're gonna put a mineral site over here. And I think we got a chance at getting maybe different deer, completely different deer groups than we might be getting over there. So there's a pretty cool spot here. Creek bottom runs down through here. And then a bunch of ag fields out on the neighbors here if you keep going to the east. But there's some pretty good deer sign in here already, a lot of trails that are getting pounded right now. So we're gonna throw out some recharge mineral here, slap up a cell camera, and let it soak and see what shows up. We just got done putting in a scrape tree over here, pretty much all the way up on the northeast corner of this property. I'm hoping, this is a hard spot to get to without boogering the entire farm. So I'm hoping I can knock on some doors of some of the property owners here to the north and get access. That's kind of my, that would be ideal, because then I can just slip right into these spots and I wouldn't ruin anything. So we put a scrape tree here. I didn't have enough cameras to cam this one, but we cleared out a spot, weed whacked this whole area down. Just gonna let her soak, but that's pretty much all we got for work to do today. We're gonna head back to the house, Brewers playing a little bit, eat some dinner, drink some beer, and probably build some arrows tomorrow. And then that'll pretty much be it until after the 4th of July weekend. And then just got a couple more projects to finish up, and summer will be over before we know it. Well, this is the 2nd of July today. Hayden and I were out all day yesterday getting a bunch of work done on one of the permission farms. We are in the basement today. It is raining out, nasty. It's supposed to rain most of the day. So we are down in the basement. We got a brand new dozen arrows from Easton. We're gonna build them right now. Got my main man, Chan, with me. He's gonna help me. We just got a brand new arrow saw here in the last week. So this will be the first time cutting arrows on it. I think it's D-cut is how you call it, or how you pronounce it. We're gonna pretty much build these arrows from start to finish today. We always get our arrows bare shaft, just because we work with tack vanes. So it's easier to get them bare shaft and put them all together ourselves versus getting pre-fletched arrows and having to worry about ripping all the vanes off of them right away. So we've got a brand new dozen arrows. We're gonna start out getting them all cut here. And once we get them cut, we'll put wraps on them, fletch them, and we'll have a dozen arrows here before we're done. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna measure out one of my arrows that I've already got that I've been using. I'm gonna take my knock off. You don't have to, but I'm gonna take my knock off of this one. And I'm also gonna take off my field point for now. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure. I've got an adjustable, this adjusts for the length of your arrow, in and out, and then it locks in place. So the first thing I'm gonna do is find out the length of my existing arrows simply by adjusting this slide until I'm right where that arrow's getting cut. I just gotta make sure. Okay. Right about there. I'm gonna tighten it. Make sure it's solid. And I'm just lining up the end of the carbon with where this blade's at. And that looks pretty dang close. One thing that you don't want to forget to do is, since I took my knock out on my measure arrow, I'm gonna take the knocks out of all these other ones too, hopefully. They're in there pretty snug. So we got all 12 arrows cut. I think I did 7 of them. Chandler cut 5 of them. Got them all cut. We are done with the arrow saw, so we're gonna go ahead and get that off the workbench, get it out of our way. The next thing we are gonna do is make sure that both ends of these arrows are perfectly square. A lot of times, whether it's from the factory or from us just cutting them, you know, you wanna think that your arrow's square on the end, but truth be told, a lot of the times they're not. And about the worst thing you can get for consistent arrow flight is arrows that aren't square on the end, because you're not getting a true knock. I guess, I don't even know what you'd call that. Pretty much you want to make sure your arrows are square on both ends, just so your knock's touching the arrow square and your tip's touching the arrow square. So I've got a tool here that Lumenok actually makes. It's called the Fast Tool. And you pretty much just run each arrow, both ends, up against this sandpaper and make sure that both ends are perfectly square, I guess. All right, we just put all 12 arrows through the Fast Tool. Made sure both ends of all the arrows are squared off. Next step is I shoot wraps on all my arrows. I have for quite a few years, just because I like to refletch my arrows pretty often. At least once a year, I like to go through and refletch everything just to make sure everything's good. And using wraps allows for me to clean those arrows off. When I do refletch, you don't have to worry about all that glue being right on the shaft versus, you know, putting a wrap on the arrow and fletching on top of a wrap. So we're gonna go ahead and put wraps on all of these arrows and then keep moving. So I just got all of my wraps cut to the length that I want them. Next thing I'm gonna do is find a flat surface. This bench top should work just fine. And I'm gonna roll these wraps on right tight to the end of the arrow. I'm gonna leave probably a 64th of an inch right at the end so I can not worry about my Lumenok being able to touch the arrow. I don't want my wrap right to the end of the arrow. I want to leave just a little bit of carbon. And I'm gonna go ahead and roll these wraps on all the arrows right now. So I like to lay the wrap down on right on the flat surface. And what I'm gonna do is pretty much just lay the arrow down on it. Like I said, leave just a little bit of carbon on the end of it. Lay it down. Then I'm gonna roll. And I'm gonna make sure this end is on there real good. And then I'm gonna keep rolling until the entire wrap is on. And then I'm gonna go through just with my fingers and press down good, make sure it's on that shaft good. And as you can see there, I left just a little bit of carbon on the end. I didn't want my wrap all the way to the end of the arrow. All right, so we got wraps on, I think 5 or 6 of the arrows here. I'm not gonna bore you guys and do all 12 because the process is pretty much the same every time. So what we're gonna do on the Bitzenberger, we went ahead and scraped. There was some excess glue on here from last time that had kind of hardened, so I took a knife and kind of scraped all that old glue off. A couple things that you might want to have around: some paper towel and some Q-tips. I use Q-tips to wipe off any excess glue as I'm going. So what I've got marks on my Bitzenberger, as you can see here, from some of the different arrows that I've fletched up in the past. This longer black mark is the one that I'm going to use on my arrow setup here today. Gonna be putting on TAC 275 drivers. Chan picked out the colors. We're going 2 pink and 1 white. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one of these TAC vanes and I'm gonna attach it here. And as you can see, the bottom of it is gonna match up with that black mark that I have here on my jig. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put my arrow into the jig. And I've got it set up to 3 fletch right now. I'm just gonna make sure it's in a solid point. TAC Vane sends a primer pen. If you get their adhesive kit, I highly suggest, if you're using TAC Vanes, to use this primer pen. It's crucial to get good contact when you're gluing your vanes to the shaft of the arrow. When I swipe it down the vane, you don't need much. But the bond between this and the glue is what makes TAC vanes super, super adhesive and stick to your arrows good. So I'm gonna go once or twice down it. I'm gonna grab my glue. I'm just gonna put a thin bead all the way down the vane. Just like that. Like I said, I'm gonna make sure my arrow's locked into a groove. Push it down, and I'm gonna make sure I got contact all the way down the shaft. A lot of people will walk away from it right now I'm super anal about it, so I like to keep an eye on it. If I have to adjust the Bitzenberger one way or another to get contact all the way down the arrow, I kind of like to just keep an eye on it. And if I have to hold pressure on one end or the other, I like to be able to just kind of watch that. You want to probably let it sit. I mean, this glue is probably good in about 10 seconds. I like to wait probably closer to 30 to 40 just to be safe and make sure I got a good connection before I take the clamp off. All right, so it's been about 30, 40 seconds. All you gotta do is squeeze this clamp and it pulls off. Right now, as you can see, I've got a little bit of excess glue on the vane. So this is when I'm gonna go down and I'm just gonna take my Q-tip and wipe off any excess glue that might be along there. And once I get this side done good, now I'm gonna rotate my arrow. Usually there's not any excess glue on this side. For whatever reason, any excess glue always comes out that other side. But just to be sure, I still run my Q-tip down this edge. So once that vane's on there, I'm gonna repeat the process. All right, we just got done putting a dab of glue on the top of each fletching. You probably shoot this arrow 30 minutes from now. I like to let mine sit overnight just to be safe. I don't want to, you know, a lot of work goes into putting the wraps on, gluing all the fletchings, cutting the arrows. And the last thing I want to do is shoot this thing too soon, have to rip everything off and start over. So I usually like to let mine sit overnight. We went with the 2 pink and the 1 white like Chan requested. I think it turned out pretty sweet.
Yep.
What do you think?
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna bore you guys and make you watch me do 11 more arrows. I'm not gonna make Hayden film me fletch 11 more arrows. That's kind of the process I do. It's worked for me over the years. If you guys have any questions about fletching arrows, I'm by no means an expert, but I'd be glad to, you know, give you my 2 cents if you have any questions. If you guys see me doing something that you think I'm doing wrong, if there's a better way to do something, drop those comments below. I'd like to improve upon this. I really like fletching my own arrows. It's one of those things that kind of ties me to it. You know, if something's gonna screw up in the woods, and if it's gonna be something to do with my arrow, I kind of like knowing that it's my fault versus, you know, something coming from the factory already pre-fletched. You know, it kind of just gives you that sense of tying you to your equipment. So I've always enjoyed fletching my arrows. I take my time with it and make sure I do a good job. So I appreciate you guys watching the semi-live. Thanks for Chandler joining his first time on the video, first time on the channel. And we'll see you guys next week.